My name is Lena Carter. I'm 28 years old. And for most of my life, if you asked anyone in my family who I was, they would have smiled politely and then said something like, "Oh, Lena? Yeah, she's still figuring things out." That's a polite way of saying failure. The dropout. The quiet one. The girl who had potential but wasted it. My mother said that sentence so many times, it started sounding like a family slogan. She said it at birthdays, at Christmas dinners, at every gathering where someone asked about her daughters. Because my older sister, Olivia, was the success story. Perfect grades, perfect career, perfect engagement ring. And me, I was the unfinished chapter, the daughter people whispered about when they thought I couldn't hear. What none of them knew, not my parents, not my sister, not the 30 relatives who sat around that dinner table every year, was that while they were busy telling my story for me, I was quietly writing my own. And the night they finally heard the truth, no one at that table was ready for it. But before we get there, I need to take you back to a night when everything broke. Because every story like this has a moment when your life splits into two paths, the one everyone expected and the one you have to fight to survive. For me, that moment happened at 2:11 in the morning. I remember the exact time because the light from my phone lit up the ceiling above my bed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in my chest, that strange instinct you can't explain, told me to answer. "Hello? Lena, honey?" The voice was shaky. It was Mrs. Dawson, my grandfather's neighbor, and she never called. My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "It's your grandpa. He collapsed in the driveway. The ambulance just took him to Mercy Hospital." I was out of bed before she finished the sentence. I grabbed my shoes, my keys. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone twice. I called my mother while running down the stairs of my dorm. She answered on the 4th ring. "Lena, do you realize what time it is? Grandpa's in the hospital." Silence, then a long sigh. Not the kind people make when they're scared, the kind they make when they're annoyed. "He's 79, she said. "Things happen." "He collapsed, Mom." "I have a board meeting in the morning." My grip tightened around the phone. "So, what do you want me to do?" I asked. "They'll take care of him." "They?" "The doctors." Then she said something I still hear in my head sometimes when the room gets quiet. "Don't make everything dramatic, Lena." And she hung up. I drove 3 hours that night with nothing but headlights and adrenaline. No music, no coffee, just the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. When I finally reached the hospital, my grandfather was already in surgery. A brain hemorrhage. The doctor said if the ambulance had arrived 15 minutes later, he wouldn't have made it. I sat in that waiting room for 5 hours. Sister. No one. Just me and a flickering vending machine. When the surgeon finally came out, he still had blood on his gloves. "He's alive," he said. But recovery would be slow. Months of therapy, full-time care. And that's when the real problem started. Because my parents didn't show up until the next afternoon. Not with concern, not with hugs, with logistics. My mother sat beside me in the hallway and said something that changed my entire life. "We can't manage this." I stared at her. "What do you mean?" "Your father travels constantly. My job is demanding." She gestured toward the ICU doors. "He'll need someone full-time." Then she looked at me. "You're the logical choice." I was 21. A college student studying computer engineering. I had finals in 2 weeks, scholarships, internships lined up, but suddenly none of that mattered. 2 weeks later, I dropped out. Not because I failed, because someone had to stay. For 10 months, I lived in my grandfather's tiny house, helping him relearn how to walk, how to hold a spoon, how to button his shirt. Every morning started at 6 a.m. Medication, exercises, doctor appointments, insurance paperwork. While my friends were graduating, starting careers, moving into apartments in big cities, I was learning how to lift a grown man from a wheelchair without hurting his back. And during that entire year, my mother told everyone something different. She told them I left school because she couldn't keep up. She said engineering was too hard for Lena. She said I needed time to figure things out. By the time my grandfather could live alone again, the story had already spread. I wasn't the granddaughter who stepped up. I was the dropout, the disappointment. And correcting the story felt pointless, because once people believe something, they rarely go looking for the truth. So I stopped explaining. Instead, I started building something. At night, in silence, after my grandfather went to sleep, I opened my laptop. Coding had always been my escape, not flashy startup stuff, just quiet problem solving. I started building a scheduling platform, a system for small trucking companies to manage deliveries. Simple, practical, no investors, no office, just a laptop and stubborn determination. 2 years later, that little side project turned into something real. But nobody in my family knew. To them, I was still the girl fixing websites for grocery money. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Because the last time my parents knew about an opportunity in my life, they ruined it. When I was 22, I had landed an internship with a tech company in Chicago. 2 days before I started, someone from my family called HR, said I wasn't reliable, said I had emotional issues. The offer disappeared overnight. So this time, I built everything under a different name, Lena Hayes, my grandmother's maiden name. 3 years later, the company had 150 clients, 8 employees, and a venture capital firm wanted to buy us, $43 million. But my family still thought I was freelancing in a basement. Then Thanksgiving came, the dinner where everything exploded. 32 people around a table. My mother stood with her wine glass like she always did. My daughter Olivia just made partner at her firm, she announced proudly. Applause. Then her eyes landed on me. And Lena, well, the room chuckled softly. She's still trying to find her path. The familiar pity smiles appeared around the table. And that's when my phone buzzed. A notification. The acquisition article had just gone live. Front page of a major tech site. My name. My company. The $43 million deal. Across the table, my cousin Ethan checked his phone. Then my uncle. Then my aunt. Within seconds, the room went quiet. Not awkward quiet. Shocked quiet. Ethan looked up. Lena, what is this? My mother frowned. What are you talking about? He turned his phone toward her, and I watched the color drain from her face. For the first time in my life, she had no story ready. No narrative to control the room. No explanation to spin. Just silence. The kind of silence that happens when the truth walks into a room uninvited. And in that moment, for the first time since I was a child, every person at that table saw me clearly. Not as the failure they've been told about. Not as the girl who couldn't handle life. But as someone who built something real while they weren't paying attention. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just said something simple. You never asked what I was building. The room stayed quiet. My grandfather reached across the table and squeezed my hand. His voice was calm. I knew you'd do something big. And for the first time in years, I believed it too. Because sometimes the loudest revenge in the world is simply living a life so full that the lies people told about you can't survive in the light anymore. And sometimes, the girl everyone called the disappointment just needed silence long enough to become the story no one saw coming.